From Ride the West Horse Expo in Spokane, Washington, Rainsman presents Part 3 of a 13-week series with Sharon Camarillo. This week, Sharon talks about the balanced horse and rider.
We've got a great opportunity in between clinics to come into the expo hall to do some shopping here at Ride the West. And, you know, whether you're a horse owner or not, there's some great lifestyle opportunities for shopping here. In the expo, they're showing us the latest and greatest in some of our industry's new products. Some of the pharmaceutical representatives are here to give you the insight into the different medications and cosmetics for your horse, and they've got slinky blankets and artwork and furniture. So it's not just about the horse owner or the clinician at the horse fairs. In fact, each year at Ride the West, they have a local competition with artists in the area that vie for the opportunity to put their artwork on the cover of the program. And this year, Ann Handler won that contest. What's interesting is it's a unique picture featuring military and horses, but more than just the artwork, Ann, there's something that means something very, very dear to you.
Most definitely. This is a picture of my father with two of his three horses post-World War II in Berlin, Germany. They divided Berlin, Germany up into 4 sectors after World War II, and his responsibility in the cavalry was to patrol the border between the American and the Russian sectors. So the Army's typical method of operating was to purchase horses locally. So the horses in the picture are Trakehner stallions. He actually had 3 that he was responsible for. And when they would finish with their duty, they would return the horses back to the local studs.
Not only did you do the personal picture of your dad with his horses, but I hear that you also do some of the horses in the area as a business.
Yes, I do. I have horse portraits by Ann Handler. I take commissions at shows like this. I travel around to as many shows as I can get to and hope for the best and really enjoy this very much. It's a very big part of my life.
Well, that's great, and you can see after talking to Ann and as we explore the opportunities here in the expo that it's all about the horse here at Ride the West. It's about time for us to leave the expo and get back to business. We're going to go to the arena and work on the art of barrel racing. It's a terrific opportunity, not to mention an honor, to be invited to be one of the clinicians at Ride the West Horse Expo. Part of the opportunity is being a horse fan and going out and seeing some of the clinicians myself. I think there's a wonderful variety of disciplines here in Spokane at Ride the West, and not only do I enjoy watching some of the dressage disciplines, we've got Van Hargis that's here with Purina, and he's showing us some of the rein cow horse techniques that he shows, and of course the down under philosophy of Clinton Anderson is fun to watch too. So I hope all of you are getting the opportunity. You may not be too interested in the discipline, but go seek and refine the information, look through it, see what applies to you. And the bottom line, I think that you're going to see, like I do, is the fact that the cross-discipline, when it comes right down to it, is very, very consistent. I mean, traditional horsemanship skills, regardless of the discipline, are very consistent. So tonight we're going to be talking about developmental skills and the balanced horse. And in talking about balance, first and most important, you can't have a balanced horse without a balanced rider. So we need to talk about our elementary position when we're on our horse's back, and of course equipment becomes a very important issue and is the responsibility of the rider themselves to make sure the equipment is selected for the specific horse to strengthen his weaknesses and complement his strengths. We want to make sure that the saddle, of course, fits the specific horse, and it's a saddle that's been selected for the discipline itself. As we start talking about balance and the importance of selecting equipment, let's just review what we've got on Jules tonight. One of her problems was she wanted to tuck behind the bridle. And that comes many times from horses that have been taught to run on a track. And when the jockey's pulling on your traditional snaffle bit, it puts a lot of pressure down across the bars, the lip, and the tongue. And for a horse to learn to escape that pressure, they start tucking their chin back to their chest. On our performance horses, we really want to work to get the poll elevated, and our key is to create balance to get the poll elevated above the wither. So we've put on a traditional snaffle that's going to give us the direct control to be able to cue position and at the same time balance the horse. I want the snaffle to give me the direct control between my hands to her mouth so I can literally, mechanically manipulate a balanced position. Because she has the tendency to want to drop behind the bridle, we've hung the mouthpiece in this particular snaffle up to take some of the pressure off the lip, the bars, and the tongue. And it allows a rider, when you take a hold of this bit, that the pressure really comes back to the corners of the mouth. Therefore, she's not as apt to drop away from the bridle. We've complemented the bridle with a German martingale. There's times that she gets a little on the muscle, she gets a little uncollected, and we want the martingale to be an aid not only to make up for the rider's inconsistencies, but also to stabilize the horse's collection and movement. Adjustment on the martingale is very neutral. Now, of course, we've got our breast collar and our saddle, and the saddle is basically a tool no different than a set of well-balanced golf clubs, tennis racket for professional tennis players. The saddle itself is primarily a tool to help me, the rider, stay balanced on my horse. A balanced rider creates a balanced horse. I want to look for a saddle that provides a seat that's flat enough that I can get down and feel my horse's back. When I want to feel my horse's movements, I also want to look and make sure that my pad is a close contact design, so there's not a lot of bulk between my legs and my horse's side. This saddle provides me the balance that I'm going to need to stay balanced on my horse. And if you'll notice, the fenders themselves allow my feet to hang directly under my pelvis. I like a wider base stirrup because the stirrup itself is the floor that's going to help me create a balanced position on my horse's back. And I like to ride my foot all the way in my stirrup back to the heel of my boot or over the arch, as you might see. And I want to be concerned that my toe and heel is parallel to the ground, which tells me that my feet are directly under my pelvis, very similar to when I stand up off the ground, my feet are underneath my pelvis. And you'll see that my toe and heel now is parallel to the sides of the horse. Therefore, I'm not going to be too in my horse's side if I was wearing a spur. And I see the majority of riders, and I think you all, if you'll look down and watch your toes are out, your heels are in. So every time the horse makes a move, you're tickling the horse with the sides of your spurs. And we're really wanting to create a responsive horse that when asked, the horse responds. And if you're consistently hanging a spur in a horse's side, they get very numb to the request that the rider is offering. The length of the stirrup is critical in helping a rider maintain balance. When I balance my foot in the stirrup, I want to stand up in my saddle, and without locking my knee too straight, in a relaxed position, I want to be able to still maintain about a 3-finger position between my crotch and the saddle. With that length of stirrup, it's going to provide the resource for me to maintain a nice supple pelvis, which is going to be a stabilizing factor in providing the balance that me, the rider, needs to ride my horse into balance. So I want a soft pelvis and a soft lower back. The pelvis, again, will be my stabilizer. It'll be my shock absorber in cushioning the compression of the horse into the ground as it comes up through my body to my upper shoulders. And the more soft I can be in my pelvis, the more I can feel and ride with the movements of the horse, the more it allows me to relax in the shoulder and maintain stability in my hand. So everything we're talking about is really preparing ourselves to create a balanced position on our horse's back. Now, we talk about the heel under the pelvis. The pelvis needs to remain under the rider's shoulder. If you're looking down at your horse, like I see many riders do, they're tilting their shoulders forward and losing the ability to look up and dictate the position that you'll want to ride the horse. Where you look is a good rule of thumb to where you want to ride the horse's feet. So with my chin up, it allows my eyes to look out forward, and it also helps place my shoulder over my pelvis, and again, the pelvis remains over the heel of my boot. This is the center of gravity. It's a balanced position, and now it's going to help me utilize my body to help control the variety or the various parts of a horse. A balanced rider's body now introduces the fact that we want to create a nice light contact between our hands to the horse's mouth with the rein, because in reality, the rein is the communication between the rider and the horse. We can introduce a variety of aids to help us control and balance our horse. Number 2 from the hand would be the rider's seat. And it's critical that the seat bones on each side of the rider's body are equally balanced in the middle of that saddle. Our legs now will become part of our training aid to be able to balance and control our horses. So we want to reiterate that the importance of using the training aids of your hands, your seat, and your legs are going to be critical in being able to ride a balanced horse regardless of the speed or discipline. As we talk about riding the balanced horse, let's talk about the zones that we'll be working on controlling. First off, I want you to look at the pole between the horse's ears, down the horse's mane, through her spine to her tail, and remember that this horse and every horse has a right side and a left side. So right there's 2 halves. There's 2 sides of the horse that we need to control. The right rein is merely going to show this horse which direction that she needs to go to the right. And again, the left rein comes up as the resource to teach this horse which way to travel when she's cued to the left. Remember to maintain your body position, chin up, eyes forward, and where you look is where you're going to ride your horse's feet. Zone 1 is from the nose through the pole to the neck. Zone 1 is controlled by the reins. And right now she's losing connection. She's dropping her pole. She's tucking her nose behind the vertical. So am I going to say, "Como está usted?" or "Hello, can you hear me now?" That's not where I want your face. So I'm going to utilize the contact with my reins. I'm going to place her pole again over the line of the wither. I'm going to reset her nose, and once she achieves that head position that I'm looking for, I'm going to release the pressure. Now, let's say that she has her head in the air and it's a little too high. Conversely, I can lower my reins, drop her pole, and drop her face. So the reins are a good example of how you're going to control zone 1 in the direction that your horse is going. Zone 2 is the horse's shoulder. And once again, zone 2 is controlled with your reins and the impulsion that your legs will create to move the horse forward. It's very difficult to steer a horse when her feet aren't moving. And that was a unique little move that we saw right there, and that makes me wonder, A, did the bit pinch her? B, was there a fly that flew by? I'm not sure what caused that lack of attention, but what I'm going to do is make sure that I check her soundness with an equine dentist and make sure there's not any points on her teeth that may be causing an uncomfortable pinch to her lips. And I also want to make sure that I don't see any little pinched areas on the lips or the corners of her mouth that may be caused by a bit that's rough or a joint that may be pinching. So I'm always kind of reading and paying attention to my horse. Zone 2 again is the shoulder. We've got a right shoulder and a left shoulder. And through our training and skill building exercises, I want to be able to move a horse off the right shoulder move a horse off the left shoulder. And again, if the horse's feet aren't moving, my animal's going to be very difficult to steer. As we progress in our clinic lectures, we're going to be able to cover some of the skill drills that will teach you how to be able to maneuver your horse into balanced position through the shoulder. Our goal is to ride our horse equally on each side without a dropped right or left shoulder. Zone 3 now becomes the rib cage. This is going to be balanced with the rider's leg. We need a horse to yield to leg pressure, squeeze from the hip down to the calf, a light heel, and once we feel the response, the reward comes with the release of pressure. So a horse doesn't have that human mind that is capable of inventing a lot of maneuvers, but they are responsive to an astute rider who can develop the skills through their hands, their seat, and their legs to be able to maneuver and balance the horse's body. So we want a nice supple rib cage that's responsive to a leg yield. Pressure, squeeze, request, receive, reward. Zone 4 is the hip. What we want to teach our horses to do are to travel straight. And many times we see the hip steps in or the hip steps out. So the hip is going to be controlled by the inside leg back behind the cinch, pressure to move, release to reward. Pressure to move, release to reward. The fifth portion of this whole puzzle is being able to apply impulsion or movement that's instigated from the hind end through the spine to the horse's face, down to the mouth, back up through the reins. Impulsion comes from being able to move a horse forward to be able to steer and balance the horse's body. So, how are we going to use the concept of putting these 5 pieces together? Balanced body position, toe and heel parallel to the horse's side, heel under the pelvis, pelvis under the shoulder. Nice light contact between the rider's hands to the horse's face, similar to putting a little Tweety bird in each hand, or maybe a soft tomato that you know if you pull too hard or squeeze, you're going to have seeds all over you. We'll talk about the importance of hands as it develops balance in the horse. Of course, the head itself is not the most critical position. First of all, I want to make sure that the horse's feet are moving. Without a moving horse, I'm not going to have the ability to steer. So, nice balanced position, and I want plenty of room between my right and left hand to be able to balance my horse's shoulder. If I need to move a shoulder, roll the wrist and lift. Move the left shoulder, roll the wrist and lift. Get my horse moving off that rein pressure, and we bring our hands right back to neutral over the top of that saddle horn, only varying the position out of neutral if there's a reason that we need to rebalance. So nice light contact. If I feel the shoulder dropping, is it the left or right? If it's the right rein pressure, put the shoulder back in position. If the horse isn't moving forward, squeeze the legs, get the hind end moving, propels the horse forward, and then you can start to steer. Now the rib cage needs to be supple, and I see many times when a rider's in a circle that the rib cage leans to the inside. And if you feel a little lack of balance to the inside or out, you have to address which side of the horse is stiffening up and what do I have to do to create a supple feel. If the rib cage is stiff, it's the leg on the side of the stiffness. Again, it's a pressure release, a bump, a softness. And if we're feeling that our horses aren't moving off that last area, zone 4, again, it's the leg back in that area. So our key is that first we need a horse supple in zone 1, from the face through the poll and the neck, flexible in the shoulder, soft in the rib cage and spine, moving up from behind, and placeable in the hip to soften the loin. Once we feel our horses are laterally supple. Then we can start working on the longitudinal suppleness that comes through the back, through the neck, and to the pole. Once our horses are supple in both directions, now we can learn that we can start to ride our horses straight. For supple, balance zone 1, center zone 2, the shoulders in between your hands, horses even and soft on both sides of the rib cage in zone 3, and zone 4 is centered directly behind the shoulders. Once our horses are supple, we can maneuver them mechanically to ride them straight, and once they're straight, you gain that wonderful forward motion and freedom that a balanced horse and balanced rider achieves with great impulsion, balance, and forward movement.
Reinsman is proud to bring you this 13-week series of Sharon Camarillo's Barrel Racing Clinic from Ride the West. Visit us at www.reinsman.com. For more information on Sharon's horsemanship and barrel racing clinics, visit her at www.sharoncamarillo.com. Here are some of the upcoming topics on the Sharon Camarillo Barrel Racing Clinic series. Next week, Sharon will discuss the developmental skills for balanced riding and performance. So join us again next week right here on Horse TV. This Sharon Camarillo series is produced by Advent Communications. Contact us at clinictv@aol.com.